All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get her going here. Start me off. Where to bid to go? Have it like $1,000. Open it up.
Tax deed sales, Orange County. Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about California auctions today. So there's a lot of Orange counties around. There's one in New York, and I don't know how many states have an Orange County, but today we're going to talk about Orange County, California. All right, these auctions are for property taxes. Now the process takes a number of years in California. Why does it take years? Because California allows the property owner to go into default and stay there for as long as 5 years. So the taxes have been assessed. The property is in default. However, the official county treasurer does not lien and then ultimately levy on the property for at least 5 years before they announce this auction. So that's an unusual situation, but California is very liberal when it comes to property taxes. So in this episode, I'm going to answer many questions that are commonly asked, and I'll give you those questions now that we're going to answer. So one of the questions that comes up on a regular basis is, how do you pay for an auction property? And when can you take possession? Well, you pay for an auction property at the particular auction. If you don't pay, they'll re-auction it the same day. All right, so you're going to pay the taxes at the auction, so you need to be prepared for that. Now, how soon can you take possession of the property? Well, you're going to be issued a deed. When you're issued the deed, that means you own the property. You can't sell the property or do anything on the property until such time as you own it. So you have to wait for a deed. Sometimes it could take 2 weeks, sometimes it could take 2 or 3 months. It's going to depend upon the county that you're in and where you are. So you'll have to check with the county treasurer on that one. Okay, now what about a deposit? In California, they ask for a deposit at the auction. They're going to require the deposit before you attend the auction. Now, if you don't buy, they don't refund your money that day, but sometime within the next few weeks after that, they'll refund the money. How do you find out if the property is subject to liens? Well, you have to do research on all property if you're buying at auction. So you need to research the county records to find out if there's other liens. But the two liens that most people are concerned about, the mortgage and the trust deed, those are both eliminated at a tax auction. All right, so how long do you have to wait to sell a property? Well, I'll answer that for sure right now. You can sell the property as soon as you own it. You own it when you get the deed or when the deed is shown in your name on the county records. Okay, so I'm Ted Thomas. I've been involved in tax defaulted property for over 30 years, and I've been an investor. I'm also an author and a guide, and I teach people how to do this. So for clarity, tax lien certificates are not sold in the state of California. California sells tax deed properties, and they sell the property, and usually it's a starting bid of very close to the back taxes. But keep in mind, in California, it could be as much as 5 years behind on taxes before they issue any notices that they're going to take the property to sale. All right, now who makes all these rules? The California legislature is the governing body for the state, and so they make rules for everyone. And one of the rules they make is that all property owners are mandated to pay property tax. That means you will pay the property tax or there will be consequence. The consequence is very simple. Okay, the local government will lien the property. If you don't pay in the lien, then they'll levy the property and confiscate it and resell it at an auction. So if the owner fails to pay property tax, local government, the treasurer, will lien the property. They'll give multiple notices of default, and then they'll finally levy. And once they levy, that means they're going to go ahead and confiscate the property, and they're going to resell it at auction. All right. Now the treasurer is required to do a levy first. When they do the levy, they're going to send numerous notices of default. So there's no question. So if people have waited 5 years, they've been in default 5 years, now they're going to levy, and once they levy, they'll confiscate, and they'll resell the property to the highest bidder at an auction. Now keep in mind, the local government, the treasurer, and the board of supervisors, and the county itself, they don't want to own defaulted property. So what they're going to do is they're going to sell that property. Now, all of those properties will be advertised, okay? They'll advertise on the county website, they'll advertise in the newspapers, they'll advertise locally, the properties are for sale, and then they're going to conduct an auction. Now, some of these auctions have hundreds of properties, sometimes they have thousands of properties. Anybody can attend, and anybody can bid at the auction, although you probably have to register and give a deposit before you can be allowed in the room. All right, now the starting bid at the tax defaulted auction is generally right around the back taxes. Now, I don't know that any of these properties are going to sell in California for back taxes, but that's generally where the bidding will start, and then it will go up from there. So the highest bidder is the one that gets the property. Highest bidder gets. So it could start at 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, but it could sell for 50 or even 100 cents on the dollar, depending upon how it goes at the auction. Now, simultaneously with the auction, the treasurer, the official county treasurer, will cancel, that is, they'll delete the mortgage and the deed of trust loan on the property. That has nothing to do with municipal liens and nothing to do with the federal liens. So you need to learn to check the property records, okay? All right, now, California has a tendency to be the highest priced real estate in the United States. So the tax assessor will assess every property. So you'll know the assessed value of the property, but that doesn't mean that it's going to sell at auction at assessed value. The treasurer can start anywhere they want. Now, the treasurer doesn't want the property, so they're going to start lower. They're going to start at 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar, wherever they want. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the tax assessment could be discounted 60%, 70%, 80%. Now, think about what I just said. If a property is discounted from the assessed value by 60, 70, or 80%, well, think about that. That's a good place to be able to buy property, all right? Now, the treasurer needs money, so they're going to auction the property and get whatever they can. Highest bidder buys it. Now, what is the treasurer going to do with that money? The treasurer takes that revenue, and then they pay the county bills. All right, now, what do I mean by that? They're going to have to pay for the school teachers. They're going to have to pay the firefighter. They're going to have to pay the police department. You have to pay the sheriff, county employees. All those bills are paid by the treasurer of the county. So the treasurer wants to get rid of the property because it's on a default list, and they want to move it over to the honorable people that pay their taxes on time. So the treasurer has a tough job of getting rid of those properties. So some auctions, like in Orange County and Los Angeles County, there'll be literally thousands of properties at these auctions that they're trying to get rid of. So the county treasurer expects payment in full at the time of the auction. If you don't pay in full, they're going to re-auction the property right away. So unpaid property is re-auctioned right away. So if you go to pay for it and you haven't made a plan to do that, they're going to re-auction the property right away. All right, now if you're watching this video, let's think about what we're talking about here. People are going to these auctions for a reason. What's the reason? They want to get properties for bargain prices. They'd love to get them for 10, 20, or 30 cents on the dollar. If you could do that, could you resell it? Yes, once you own it, you go out and put a sign on the property. You could sell it on eBay. You could sell it on Facebook Marketplace. You could sell it on the MLS system. You could use Craigslist. You're getting the idea. Trulia, Zillow. And what if you sold it for 50 or 60 cents on the dollar? Well, that's perfectly fine with them because the county got their money at the auction, and basically that's all they want. So if that would work for you to buy it for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, sell it for 40 or 50 cents on the dollar, well, then you want to know more about these tax defaulted auctions. All right, so the treasurer will issue a deed to the person that's the highest bidder. Now, when they issue the deed, it's going to be a quitclaim deed. What is a quitclaim deed? Well, I'm going to tell you, it might say treasurer's deed on it, might say sheriff's deed on it, might say tax collector's deed, but it's nothing more than a quitclaim deed. And a quitclaim deed means this. It means buyer beware. The property was sold as is. Buyer beware, property was sold as is. What do I mean by that? That means that the county is not responsible for the condition of the property, and the county is not giving you a warranty that the deed is free of defects. In other words, the title is not free of defects. Both of those two are your concern. What's the condition of the property and what's the condition of the title? So auction buyers need to learn to check those things before they buy at the auction. All right, now you also should be aware of what the neighborhood is. So when you're looking at a property, be aware of what the neighborhood is, because what are you going to do with the property? If you're not going to live it, you're probably going to want to sell it. So think about that. You want to be able to know that you can sell it so you won't bid too high. So keep that in the back of your mind. All right, now all the California auctions are going to require a deposit, and they're going to have to pay for the property when you buy it. You pay for it when you buy it. If you don't pay for the property at the auction, they'll resell it immediately. All right, research is your challenge. You need to research the condition. Should have boots on the ground so you looked at the property. You need to research the title. trust deed will be removed from the property as any mortgage would be. However, any defects in title are going to be your concern. All right, municipal liens and federal liens, they're your concern when you buy at a tax defaulted auction. So if you're getting the idea, this is your job to make sure that you do your due diligence. All right, now understanding how to sell the property is going to be your job. Now, the simple blunder of not knowing how to sell makes a difference between making a profit and not making a profit. So you should know what you're going to do with that property. Now, most sellers don't do too well when it comes to selling because they haven't thought about how they're going to go about that process. So you need to think about that process. Now, what is the process? Well, if you're going to make money, you're going to have to start using media. What is media? Media means that you're going to use the multiple listing service. You're going to use Craigslist. You're going to use Facebook Marketplace. You're going to use Trulia, Zillow. All right, you need to use all those simultaneously in addition to signs on the front lawn and signs around the neighborhood. People that know how to sell, they do okay at these auctions. Keep in mind, newspapers still work, real estate clubs, the people at the clubs are all looking for bargains, good places to sell. So you need to know how to market. The selling process is up to you. The government does not care about that. Now I'm going to run out of time, so before I run out of time, I do want to say this. You see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. Those white circles represented auction properties. So if you want to know where they are and how many there are, right below me, you can make a request and we'll send you a list to show you where auctions are on our interactive map and how many properties are available. Now, in the small population county, there's going to be hundreds of these properties available. All right, but in the large population counties, you can expect to find hundreds of these properties are going to be available at auction. All right, the money is made at a tax defaulted auction at the auction. All right, so if you get this part of it right and you buy correctly at the auction, well, this is going to be smooth sailing. But if you don't buy it right, then everything else is going to be a struggle and you're only going to make a fraction of the money you deserve. Don't forget, request your free auction list right below me.